They don't need to break into your house to take your wealth because you already handed it to them with a click on I agree. If your stocks, your retirement, even your cash could legally be taken in one bad week in the markets, would you want to know how to unplug from that? In this video, we're going to break down the shocking idea behind the great taking and why your brokerage account, your bank, even your retirement fund may not be as safe as you think. I'm going to show you how the system is quietly set up so your assets can be frozen, relabeled, and reassigned in a crisis, all while everyone tells you everything is fine. Most people stop there and panic. But we're also going to talk about something simple and very old that doesn't care about software, fine print, or emergency protocols. Owning physical gold and silver in your own hands. So stick with me, because once you see how this game is actually built, you'll never look at your online balance the same way again. The strange truth about what you really own. Let's start with something that sounds boring, but is actually the whole trick. How your assets are held. When you buy stocks in your brokerage account, your name usually isn't on those shares. They're held in what's called street name, the broker's name, and you just get what's called a security entitlement. So that's a fancy way of saying the system agrees that you have a claim, but the actual shares, the real thing, sit in a big pool under the broker or the clearinghouse. This setup makes trading faster and cheaper, which is why it became the standard. But it also means you're plugged into a chain of middlemen: broker, clearing firm, custodian, depository. If nothing goes wrong, this is invisible. Your app shows numbers, the numbers go up or down, you feel rich or poor, and life goes on. The great taking idea in plain English. David Rogers Webb calls out something darker hiding inside all this plumbing in his idea called the great taking. He says that over decades, the legal language and the financial system have been slowly rewired so that in a big enough crisis, your claim on those assets can legally be pushed aside in favor of secured creditors, the big institutions at the top of the food chain. In the video, based on his work, there's a fictional scenario. Hidden code buried deep in the market's software, waiting for a trigger, a crash, a wave of defaults, to quietly flip the system into emergency mode. No sirens, no warning. Just a line of code waking up, and suddenly the rules change. Collateral can be reassigned, accounts can be frozen, and the assets you thought you owned are now part of a resolution plan. The wild part? In this story, it's not even called theft. It's called protecting the system, or maintaining market stability. How the system can change the rules mid-game. Your assets sit in layers of entities. Your broker may go under. Your assets are pooled at a clearinghouse. Clearinghouses have rules about who gets what if things blow up. We've seen versions of this before. In 2008, during the financial crisis, rules around who got paid and who took losses shifted fast. Banks were saved, shareholders and everyday savers got hit. In Webb's picture, he pushes this to the extreme. Imagine an everything crash, where the central clearing counterparties, the hubs where all these trades meet, are undercapitalized on purpose and allowed to fail. When that happens, secured creditors step in and, by design, they have legal priority over the collateral, which includes the assets sitting in that big pool you think are yours. You're not first in line. You might not be in line at all. The quiet click that gives permission. Here's the part that stings. We help build this system every time we open an account and scroll to the bottom of a 40-page agreement and just click I agree. Every brokerage, every app, every new financial service has terms that spell out what happens in a crisis, in a default, in insolvency. You never read them. I never read them. Nobody reads them. But the lawyers who wrote them did, and the regulators who approved them did. So now picture this. One day, not in a movie, but in real life, there's a massive panic. Big firms start to wobble. liquidity dries up. Somewhere, a decision is made. It's time to trigger an emergency asset continuity protocol. It sounds technical, boring even. But what it really means is the game pieces on the board get picked up and moved, and you don't get to touch the board. Let's make it real. You wake up, grab your phone, open your brokerage app, it just spins. You try your bank. You get a message. Due to extraordinary market conditions, withdrawals are temporarily limited. Please check back later. News headlines are vague. Temporary measures, protecting the system. Lots of, we're monitoring the situation closely. By the time the dust settles, you still see a balance. The app still works. But there's a small, new line of text. Subject to resolution framework, or units under new settlement regime. In the background, the old claims, the ones you thought meant, this is mine, have been rewritten. The real ownership has shifted, and what you have now is a promise, a credit, a controlled token inside a system you don't control. Enter the new money, CBDCs. Now add one more ingredient, central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs. Plenty of central banks are openly exploring or piloting their own digital currencies, programmable money that can be tracked and controlled at the code level. In Webb's picture, after the Great Taking, these CBDCs show up as the savior. We've stabilized the system. Here's your new digital balance. Everything's safe now. But there's a catch. This money can be limited by time, by where you can spend it, by what you can buy. It can be frozen with a keystroke. It can be turned off for risk management, public safety, or any other approved reason. At that point, your wealth isn't just numbers on a screen. It's numbers on a screen that someone else can edit. So where does that leave you? Let's pause. Even if you think Webb is going full doomer, here's what this all points to. Counterparty risk. If someone else holds your assets for you, and if someone else's rules decide what happens in a crisis, then your biggest risk isn't just the market goes down. Your risk is the rules change and you're not in the room. That's the core problem this whole story exposes. We've traded control for convenience. Fast trades, easy apps, zero commissions, in exchange for being plugged into a system that can, under stress, put you last. The old answer, hiding in plain sight. Now, let's pivot to something much simpler. Physical gold and silver. Not gold ETFs, not synthetic exposure, not some token. I mean real coins, real bars that you can actually hold. When paper promises failed, the people who had metal often had options. Gold and silver versus digital promises. Let's lay it out very simply. On one side, assets held in street name, inside a brokerage, under layers of legal agreements, tied into clearinghouses and custodians. On the other side, a gold coin you can hold, a silver bar you can touch, stored somewhere you control or with a custodian you chose very carefully. Paper assets depend on rules staying the same, institutions staying solvent, software behaving, regulators being fair. Physical metal depends on gravity and your ability to not lose it. One is a digital promise, the other is an object. That doesn't mean you should dump your entire portfolio and go 100% gold. It means you should be honest about what part of your wealth is just a line in someone else's database and what part is outside that system. How physical metal cuts the chain. Remember those layers we talked about? Broker, clearing firm, custodian, depository. When you own physical metal outright, that chain gets radically shorter. If it's in your hand, the chain is just you. If it's in a non-bank private vault under your name or in an allocated account, the chain is you and one service provider. There's still some level of trust if you use storage, but it's not the same as being another line item in a huge pooled system that can be resolved in an emergency. And your gold isn't a promise to pay later, it's payment itself. That distinction matters a lot when trust breaks. But gold doesn't pay interest. You might be thinking, yeah, but gold doesn't give me dividends or interest. True. Physical gold and silver don't throw off yield, but that's not why people use them. They're not there to beat your tech stocks in a bull market. They're there to be the thing that survives the crash, the reset, the quiet rule change. In that sense, gold is more like an insurance policy than a growth stock. You don't complain that your home insurance doesn't pay interest. You keep it because if the house burns down, it's the only thing that stands between you and starting from zero. Gold and silver can play that same role for your financial life. So how do real people use this in the real world? Some set a simple target, 5 to 20% of their net worth in physical precious metals, depending on how worried they are about the system. They buy coins or small bars from reputable dealers, avoid numismatic collectibles unless they really know what they're doing, and focus on recognizable pieces that are easy to sell. They think about storage, home safe, hidden but accessible, or professional vaulted storage in their country of choice. They don't chase every price move. They think in decades, not days, because the main job of that metal is to be there when everything else is in question. The real problem, sleep. At the deepest level, this whole conversation isn't about charts and legal language. It's about sleep. Can you sleep at night knowing that every dollar you saved lives inside a system that can, at least in theory, copy-paste your wealth somewhere else for your own good? Or do you want some part of your net worth in a form where, if the apps go dark for a week, your wealth hasn't vanished into a resolution protocol? Owning physical gold and silver doesn't fix everything. It doesn't stop crises, but it does give you something the current system can't easily take with a line of code. Picture this moment. Future you. Something big just broke in the markets. Headlines are a mess. People are freaking out on social media. You open your phone and see two things. On one screen, your brokerage app. Service unavailable. Please try again later. On the other screen, a simple list. 20 ounces of gold, 800 ounces of silver, stored here, under your control. One of those screenshots is a hope, the other is a fact. That's the difference this whole video is about. So where does this leave you practically? First, don't panic. Panic is how people make dumb moves, sell everything at the bottom, or get scammed into some end-of-the-world product. Second, get curious. Look at how your current assets are actually held. Are they in street name? Is there any direct registration? Do you understand what would happen if your broker failed? Third, if the story behind the great taking hits a nerve for you, consider carving out a slice of your wealth and moving it into physical gold and silver that you really own. Learn the basics. Decide how much makes sense for you. Choose storage that matches your risk tolerance. You don't have to trust the system blindly. You can use it for growth while still building a side of your portfolio that lives outside its most dangerous weaknesses. Are you thinking about converting your IRA into a physical gold or silver IRA? Click the link in the description to get your free copy of the Gold and Silver IRA Guide and discover the saving secret a growing number of Americans are using. I've also included a link to my pick for the best metals exchange, where you can buy gold and silver at the lowest prices, just over spot. So check out the links in the description and start securing your future today. And if you want to stay ahead instead of reacting late, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell. This channel is about seeing moves early, and I want you here for all of them. If you want to dive deeper into how regular people can position themselves in this kind of environment without going full doomer, watch the next video on your screen. See you next time.